Hi, I was born Virginia Lee Turchin on March 23, 1938, on my mother's birthday in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I went by the nickname Verge when I was growing up, Ginny, Mom, and then Mima. My parents are Hazel Turchin and Max Turchin. Hazel Zavit. Zavit was my mom's maiden name. Her mother was Bertha Ruderman, and Bertha's parents were Fanny Hoberman and Abraham Gleimer. Her father was Abraham Zavit, and he was the son of Gertrude and Isaac Zavit. My grandparents on my mother's side were married until 1926. My mother was 12 years old, her father was 26 years old, and he had a tooth pulled. And they didn't sterilize instruments then, and he died of blood poisoning. I have an older sister, Phyllis. She's 2.5 years older than me, and a brother, Michael, who's 5 years younger. On my father's side of the family, they came from Minsk, Russia. My mother's side was Warsaw, Poland. My grandmother's name was Haitka, or Anna Kantrovich. My grandfather was Morris, but he went by Moses, and he was very religious like Moses, very, very Orthodox. My father grew up in Sioux City, Iowa. My mother grew up in Omaha, Nebraska.
Hi, I'm Marshall Becker. I was born August 30, 1934 in Kansas City, Missouri. My parents, I wasn't born in Kansas City, Missouri?
Rocking.
Oh, my parents are Bess Becker and Maury Becker, and my mother was a Langer. Her parents were Sarah and Louis Langer, and they were both from Odessa, Russia. My father's parents were Ben and Anna, I don't know, Anna Becker. They were born in
Warsaw.
See, I know a lot about this. In Warsaw, and they came over. My father's parents came over, landed in New York, and then came to Kansas City. My mother's parents didn't make the trip at one time. They stopped in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where they had relatives, and stayed there until my mother was 6 months old, and then she came here. And the only problem she had there was she couldn't vote until she was like 37 or 38 years old, because she couldn't prove her citizenship, and they finally gave up and let her vote, I believe. My father had a brother, Jack, and a sister, Blanche, and my mother had a sister, Molly, and a younger brother that died at an early age. And that's my history.
Ginny, tell me about your schooling from elementary school
I
on.
went to Emerson Grade School, kindergarten through 8th grade. And that was before they had junior high schools. So I went 4 years to high school at Washington High School. I was very active, kept very busy. I got lots of honors, and I was in Job's Daughters and Homecoming Royalty and a cheerleader. And I kept my mom real busy sewing outfits and costumes and formals for all the events. It was really a nice place to grow up. There were 100 Jewish families. 4 kids my age were Jewish. If somebody in Sioux Falls was in trouble financially, my father would call a meeting of all the head of the households of the Jewish families, and he would work with them to get the man on his feet and the family going. Everybody helped each other. So it was really a tight community. Because there were only 4 kids, I really had to know my lessons, because when I went to Sunday school and Hebrew school, I got called on a lot with just 4 kids.
And Marshall, how about you, your education?
I went to Jackson Grade School, which was on Jackson Street, and there was one other Jewish girl, Laureen Peltz, I think, that was in class. Then I went to Central, which was like going to synagogue. I think that it may still be, but at the time, it was undoubtedly the best high school maybe in the country. It was, education-wise, it was terrific. I think that when I was at Central, there was 2 Jewish people, I think, that went to North High, and maybe one somewhere else. That's how many Jewish kids there were. Had a great time at Central, made a lot of friends. Norm Vietzer, for instance, was my best friend then. Went to all through college with me, and I still, talk to him most every day. Just played tennis at Central with Norm. We were the doubles. We won the Missouri Valley doubles title when we were juniors and seniors, and when we were seniors, we came in second in the state. And that was because we showed up for the match, and then that was about my high school education.
And Ginny, where did you go after high school?
I went to the University of Nebraska, and I went to the University of Wisconsin summer school. During the summer, there were 44 girls who lived in Tower View. Our house mother's name was Auntie Bell, and we called her Tanta Ding Dong. It was a wonderful experience. I met Marshall on my first day back
Hey, what an experience.
on the campus in Lincoln, and he asked me out on a date, and I thought, oh, I forgot who he was because I've just come from that other campus. So I ran in the dorm and I asked everybody, who the heck is Marshall Becker? And that was the beginning.
Did you guys go together pretty steadily from that point on?
We met in September of 1958, got engaged in December of 57. So we got engaged 3 months later, and we got married the next August.
August 10th, 1958.
Yeah, had it to do over, I'd have waited at least another month.
My mother was real artistic. She became quite an oil painter and had paintings hanging in galleries and sold her paintings. My father sold fruit and vegetables for Galinsky Brothers out of Sioux City, Iowa, and he did that for years. They retired and moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where he became an avid coin collector. My sister married Sal Rosinski and had 2 children, Nancy and Susie. Now she's married to Harvey Aronson, and my brother Mike married Lesta Vanderwert. And they have no children, but they both have their doctor's degrees, and she's been dean in many colleges, and he taught in many colleges too.
Where does your brother live?
He lives right behind Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills, right behind the Hits.
And Marshall, you were an only child.
Thank you. Yes, after me, they said we could never do this thing good again, and I was an only child. Yes, had no brothers or sisters, and I kind of liked it though. It was kind of nice.
One thing about Marshall's family, his grandmother, Sarah Langer, had a brother, Todos Greenberg, and he was blind and a child prodigy. And he sang all over Europe, and to this day, they sing his compositions in the Orthodox synagogues and the Conservative. And he lived in Chicago, and he sat on the board and decided which Jewish rules we should observe and which we should get rid of. And she had a sister, Rivka, and Rivka was on the way to a concentration camp, and they packed her in a troop train with Ari and Zev, her 2 little boys. And she got the doors jimmied open and jumped that troop train. And the most valuable thing she had on her was a book of matches. And she made fires in the forest, and she made it through to the underground where they lived in Israel.
Now this was
Marshall's mother's sister, Rivka.
No, my mother's sister.
Rivka had those children.
Marshall's mother's sister was not Rivka. I'm glad you're filming this because my grandmother's sister
Oh, I'm
was
sorry.
Rivka.
I'm sorry, the grandmother's sister.
Forget whatever
I
she
stand
said.
corrected.
all right. I want to hear about your education when you went down to Lincoln.
Went down to Lincoln, went to the Sammy House, and which was a great experience. It was a great fraternity. I think I was president of the Sammy House my 3rd year. I went 2 years undergraduate actually, but I was going to be an accountant till I took accounting, and I decided that wouldn't do. And then during the last part of the 2nd year, I was in geometry Geometry 1 or 2, and there were 2 football players sitting next to me. One was Buzzy Bryant, and the other was the quarterback. I can't think of his name. And we had a color, countries blue and red, and the United States was supposed to be red, and they couldn't figure that out. They looked at my paper, and I said, I can't do this again. So I went to law school. And at the time, it's not anymore, thank God, it was a 2-4-year program. So you went 2-year undergraduate and 4-year of the law school, as opposed to most of them, which are 4 and 3. And so went to law school 4 years, got out in 1958.
And Ginny, tell me about, what did you study while you were in
I
school?
was majoring in elementary education. I got a 2-year teaching certificate. After I married Marshall, I started teaching at Temple Israel, and I was there for 17 years teaching under Rabbi Brooks and a Cantor Kuttner. I now sub as an assistant para in the elementary schools at Oakdale and Rockbrook and any of the schools that call that might need my help. I did go into retailing, and I ran a maternity store called Mimi Maternity for 11 years, and then I was assistant manager at Drapers and Damon's. But I wanted to get back into education. I love teaching kids.
Are you still doing it?
Yes.
And Marshall?
I don't teach anybody.
You don't-
No.
What did you do with your law degree?
Hung it up on a wall. It's still in the basement. When I got out of law school, I was actually, when I got out of law school, I was going into the Army as a captain. I thought, because at that time they were drafting everybody that got out of school, which would have been a 4-year or 6-year commitment. And just before I did that, somebody said, why don't you join the Guard? And you just go to Lackland for 11 weeks, and then you're out. You have to go to meetings. I thought that was a good deal. So I did that, and when I got out, I went to work for a man named, I was going to work for a man named Loyal Kaplan, who died a week before I went to work with him. It turned out that Don Stern worked for him, so I went in with him, and from 1958 to 1982, did nothing but represent truck lines for the Interstate Commerce Commission, and we traveled all over the country every week for hearings, etc. The government unfortunately deregulated the trucking industry in 1980, so in about 84, I went into private practice and just did general practice.
And today, what are you doing?
Today I'm watching television and figuring out what to do next. If somebody out there has a job, please call me.
In 1959, we had our first child, Lisa. And Lisa is a wonderful, wonderful daughter. She lives with us as her 20-year-old daughter, Ashley, our granddaughter. Ashley's studying to become a criminologist. She starts in December at this new college. Lisa has lost both of her legs due to diabetes, and she has really made lemonade out of the lemons. She's very positive. She's very compassionate. She does the taharas for the Jewish women. She really gives a lot of herself, and we're very, very proud of her. Jody was born in 1962, and Jody is very competitive, accelerated class, very funny, terrific sense of humor, very, very capable. And I finally got a son when she married Gino. And Gino's a wonderful husband and father and a wonderful son to us.
And how about grandchildren?
We have Ashley, who's 20. We have Stephen Michael Vinci, is 15, and he goes to Westside High School. And we have Mia Nicole Vinci, who is in the 9th grade. No, I'm sorry, she's 9 years old and she's in the 4th grade. She acts like she's in the 9th grade. She's into drama. She's very good. She's very competitive in sports, very athletic, and she loves drama.
And Stephen played football when he was a freshman, and basketball. Matter of fact, he went to the Maccabee games, I think, last year, and they came in second.
First.
One of those.
They came in first. First time we've come in first.
Yeah, and he's he's already almost as tall as I am. I think he's 6 foot plus, and he has diabetes. My daughter, Lisa, has diabetes, and it just jumped around because Jody doesn't have diabetes, but her son does, and he really handles it really, really well.
We're lucky we have Ashley living with us because we flunked computers and anything electronic, and she's terrific at all those things and helps us a lot.
So you have your daughter and
We
your
have our daughter
your
and
granddaughter.
our granddaughter living with us, and we talk to Jody and the kids every day, and we have overnights with Mia. When Stephen was little, he spent the night with us. We have all of our holidays together.
You left out the most important member of the family.
We have Sasha, a golden retriever. She's 11 years old, and we have Noni, a black cat. Her name is Noni, which stands for no name, because we couldn't figure out what to name her.
And getting together as a family, do you do that pretty often?
We do
We're
that.
all together.
We
Yeah.
do that a lot. We talk to each other every single day, and we're together a lot. We're really blessed to have them here in Omaha.
Let's go back and hear about your parents.
My father graduated the University of Kansas. He was either 19 or 20.
He was 19.
And couldn't find a job because it was like the Depression time. He sold insurance for a year. If you knew my dad, that would be the last thing you'd think he would ever do. And then he joined the Corps of Engineers. When I was 8 years old, they transferred my dad from Kansas City to Omaha, where he stayed with, he was with the Corps of Engineers for 42 years before he retired. My mom, while I was going to school, had various jobs. She was worked for an eye doctor as one of the attendants, and also worked for a storm window company. And I don't think she worked after that, but that was those two.
When his mother was little, they lived in a Spanish-speaking neighborhood in Kansas City, Missouri, because they either spoke Yiddish or Spanish. And Bess got the chicken pox, and her mother took her to the doctor, and the doctor said, "I'm sorry, your daughter has chicken pox." She ran back to the store and said to Zeta, "Kill all the chickens, kill all the chickens. They've got chicken pox. They're giving everybody chicken pox."
I want to hear about your parents, just the kind of people they were. And
My mother was very, very strong. All the women in my family are very strong, motivated, and they drive you to your goals. Her mother was very strong. We called her the general. My mother worked when we were in school, and she became after she no longer worked, like I said, she became very involved in oil painting. And she really had a wonderful disposition. She played mahjong, and she was very busy in Sioux Falls. It snowed terrible when we were growing up, and my mother gave my dad 3 choices: a divorce, a snowplow, or move to Arizona. So they moved to Phoenix, Arizona in their later years, and then as they got older and they needed us to help them, they came back to Omaha. My father grew up in a very Orthodox family in Sioux City, Iowa. He had 2 brothers, Al and Abe. Abe was a manager for Woody Herman's band. And he had 2 sisters, Lillian and Bess. And my dad was very good in track and field, and he lettered, and he got a scholarship to go to college. He was a wonderful athlete. My dad was 6'2", and my mom was 5'1". I guess I got my height from my dad.
My grandfather, on my mother's side, the one that stopped in South America for a brief stay, when he first came to the United States, he opened up, they couldn't speak English, they opened up a grocery store in like she said, the Spanish-speaking part of Kansas City. And then he got into the used automobile parts, which he did until he retired. And my grandmother that was married to him, I don't think she worked much, just took care of the kids. My father's parents when they came to Kansas City, they bought or started what's the Chicago Bakery in Kansas City, and for years and years, my grandmother every day would get up when they opened and stay there till they closed. And there's still a bakery, New York Bakery in Kansas City, which I think my great aunt or great uncle started, and that's still, I think it's still operating.
What were holidays like at home, Ginny?
Well, when I was growing up, we went to Sioux City to my father's parents' home, and they kept kosher. And she would have huge kettles of soup on the stove with the chicken feet and the unborn eagles, and they'd have tables winding through the different rooms. And she had Persian carpets and huge plants. She had a green thumb, and all of her plants would start touching the ceiling, and she'd donate them to the hospitals. And she was a wonderful cook, and she also just had a wonderful way with plants. They had a cellar, and in the cellar they had huge barrels, and in the barrels they made kosher dill pickles and corned beef, and my grandfather built a sukkah on the Jewish holidays. My father kept up the tradition of the dill pickles and told us that he was the first Max's dill pickles, and he made dill pickles in the basement of our house in Sioux Falls for years.
Have you taken the job on?
No, I did for a little while, but it was too much work, and they were just as good when you could purchase them.
How about you, Marshall? What were holidays like?
The Jewish holidays were never a big thing in our family. My grandparents were, but after they went, I don't remember my mom and dad. Oh, my Aunt Molly, yeah. My Aunt, I'm sorry, I'm just along for the ride. My Aunt Molly did have we usually at her house had big Jewish holidays because she cooked everything. The only thing I remember about eating at Jewish holidays is my grandmother Becker always made boiled chicken, and I dreaded going to her house for that.
We went to Molly Dillman, his Aunt Molly's house, after we were married, and Bess would make homemade gefilte fish, and Molly would make turkey, and there was so much food. But it was all about tradition and being with the family and being together. So we did all observe
Yes,
the holidays.
like I said, my family was big on holidays.
How about religious? Were they very religious?
My grandparents on my father's side were very religious. My mother kept kosher, and during World War II, my dad went overseas to Okinawa. My mother got meat from Chicago, and it got so hard and so expensive to get the meat. One day I came home from school, and I opened up the refrigerator, and there was a morel ham and bacon. And I ran out the front door and looked at the house to make sure I was in the right house. And my mom said, "Do you want bacon and tomato sandwich or ham and eggs?" She had had it. It was just too difficult to keep kosher. So that was really a happy day for me.
So when you went away to school, you went back home, was it to Sioux Falls?
Yes, it was.
Now I want to hear more about your kids, the girls.
Jody was in junior Olympic diving. She was in competitive diving when she grew up. We would get up early in the morning and drive her to different meets.
When she was, I don't know, 8 years old, we drove to Iowa City, which was I think 4-hour drive, whatever. And her diving team was performing. We got there and went inside the pool. I think it was the University of Iowa's pool. And the first event was diving off the high tower. And so we were back, and she's a little, bitty thing. She climbed up all the steps and walked out, looked down, turned around and climbed down. I said, "That's my kid."
It was an Olympic-sized pool, though, which would be really scary. But it was all about hitching your wagon to a star, reaching for a goal, and she did it.
Now I want to hear some of the interaction that you guys have with your grandchildren.
Oh, we go to all, whenever sporting event Jody's kids were in, we went to, unfortunately, all the soccer games in the bad weather.
The baseball.
And baseball,
softball.
went to the football game. And Mia, our granddaughter, spends the night at our house.
Almost every other week or
Yeah,
every third
considerably.
week. She likes to crawl in between the two of us and spend the night.
Yeah, and Stephen, of course, is 15 and hangs out with the boys like all 15-year-old boys do. So when we see him, we're considered lucky. And of course, Ashley lives with us, so we see her every day, fortunately. So we see him a lot.
We got named by Ashley because she was growing up in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and my name was Mima, and Marshall became Poppy. So we're Mima and Poppy.
How about these, when you have holidays, you get all the kids together?
Yes, well, we usually have our holidays at Jody's house or our house.
That's nice. And how about your son-in-law?
He's wonderful. And we all observe the holidays, and like I said, it's tradition and being together. And I've told him we're all a link in a chain, one generation to the next, and we observe like our parents observed.
And our son-in-law follows me exactly. He can fix anything, which I can't plug in a plug. But if anything goes wrong, he can.
He's wonderful.
He's wonderful. He fixes everything.
Marshall's a Jewish mechanic.
Yes.
You don't want him to plug anything in.
No, she was out in the back porch with Jody long time ago, and I had rented a one of those power things that cut down weeds, and so Jody says to Virginia, "What's that hissing sound?"
We heard sssss. I said, I don't know. And she said, you didn't let Dad plug anything in, did you?
I
Go
cut.
ahead.
What did I cut?
Through the coil to the air conditioner.
Oh yes, the air conditioner.
The hottest day of the year.
Yeah.
Of course, it was in July or August. It was really hot.
And then I did rent that same tool later, and I cut through the cord, so I had to tape it up to take back to the place. So they don't let me do it.
Lisa, Jody, Gino, Ashley, Stephen, and Mia. We're so proud of all of you. We made this for you today because we love you very much, and we wanted you to know about our rich background and just how lucky you are to have us as your Mima and your Poppy. I am 71 and your Poppy's 75. If anybody asks, I'm Nahama Gruna and he's Malak Dubit.
Malak Duid means a wonderful, good-looking person who's skilled in everything. And again, to all the names she named, we love every one of you, and it's been our blessing to be able to have you and see you most every day.